Everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So here's my top 5 worst episodes of The Walking Dead in 2024. I just posted my top 5 best episodes, which came out yesterday, so if you haven't checked it out, definitely go and do so. This is my top 5 worst episodes, and if you do agree with me, awesome. If you do have a different top 5, then definitely put your top 5 in the comment section. But yeah, let's actually get into this here. So first of all, before we go any further, make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get on my Walking Dead content like this. I will be doing a Dead City Season 2 video later on today because there's actually a teaser, or like an image anyways, a teaser image of something that I didn't get to talk about, but it's of Negan and Bruegel. So I do want to get into that because there's some really cool stuff there, and I want to talk about what that could mean overall for the story here. So yeah, make sure to be a subscriber if you want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. Things will start to pick up over the next couple of weeks here as we start to get closer to Dead City Season 2's premiere date, which a lot of us are thinking maybe February or March or April. I'm starting to lean more towards end of March and most likely in April, just because of a lot of the shows coming out, and I talked about that a lot in my other video the other day. So I think most likely April, but there's a chance that it could come out at the very end of March. There'll be an announcement anytime now, any day now they're going to say something about when the show's coming out, so we'll just have to wait and see. But let's get into number 5 here, and remember, this is my I guess top 5 worst episodes, and so number 5 will be the best of the worst, I guess, and then it goes all the way to the worst of the worst. And for number 5, I have Gone, which is The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live, I believe episode 2. And so this one was actually really tricky because I wasn't sure if it was going to make the list here, because it is overall a good episode. I do like this episode, but out of 12 episodes, you have to make a top 5 best and then a top 5 worst, right? And so there's going to be 2 episodes that don't make the cut in either of the videos. And so I was really thinking about it, this one here, I could see how it's not a really amazing episode. It's a good episode, but how are the other 2? And I guess I really can't get into that because obviously it would spoil it, but the other 2 episodes were from The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon Season 2. And I just thought that those episodes were better because there's a lot more that happens in the story. And I think for episode 2, it was a Michonne story, which I think really did help the episode. And I really honestly enjoyed watching, Michonne's journey to find Rick. I think that was the best part about it. But there's a couple things that when I'm watching this, it's frustrating because the group that she was with for a very long time, we always thought would matter a lot more, but the group was literally wiped out in this episode. Nat was a really amazing character. I really liked Nat, and they killed him off in this episode. It was really honestly kind of insane. I just didn't really understand that part. But in terms of Michonne's personal journey to try and find Rick, I loved all of that because it really showed her struggle to try and find him, right? And it took a very, very long time because she was out of it for a very long time. There's a lot of really cool stuff that I just never saw happening. A lot of it was very unpredictable, just really brand new writing that I just really, again, that's the stuff I like with The Walking Dead, when it is really unpredictable. And so that really was a lot of this episode here. And I think that seeing Michonne's side of everything to how she found Rick eventually when we do see them reunite, and this episode does have them actually talking about a lot more stuff in terms of where's Judith and all that. So there's really incredible moments here in this episode, and we do see them go to the CRM, and there's some really cool stuff there. But I still think that the other 2 episodes from The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon Season 2 had a lot more, I guess, to it, and there was a lot more for some of the villain backstory and just some really incredible writing. The visuals were just really, honestly, overall impressive, and I think just had a better, story, I would say, overall than this one here. But it was very, very close, and so yeah, that's number 5. But number 4, Become, The Ones Who Live. So this is episode 5. This one here is an episode that I do like. And again, that's why when I say top 5 worst, the episodes coming up right away, the next couple of episodes, I think are just really bad episodes. And so they're about to get worse. But because there's only 12 episodes that aired, some episodes here that are in my top 5 worst are going to be decent episodes. And so I thought that episode 5 of The Ones Who Live was an all right episode. I really did like the fact that it was an awesome goodbye to Jadis and a lot of that. And I think when I look back at it overall, an episode that, it really was more of Michonne and Rick, I guess, just trying to get home, but there wasn't a lot that happened in the episode overall. And I think in terms of Jadis' story, it did do, its job. I think that after Jadis' story was over, it felt like the proper goodbye to her character, though I still think they could have done a lot more with her, if they would have did another season, which they still could do another season, or at least it seems like at this point it's going to be a new series just based off of what Andrew Lincoln and Denai Guerrero were saying. Well, actually, mostly Andrew Lincoln has been sort of talking about what a new story would be like and sort of giving his suggestions on he wants it to be simplistic survival horror and all of that. So I feel like it's going to be not a new season. it's going to be just a new show in general. Another limited series of like 6 episodes, or maybe it'll be 8 this time, because the only reason why I think it was 6 now is because that's what AMC was doing with their spinoffs. But if you notice now, they're starting to increase a lot of their shows to like 8 episodes. So, but this episode was a great Jadis episode. You know, I think that's really all that it had going for it. Besides that, it's one of those episodes that I think would have been more of a, I guess, filler episode, I think, in a season, right? But it was still, again, I enjoyed the episode, but because there's only 12 episodes, like there has to be a top 5 worst, and so I would rank this about around here. And so let's get into number 3 here, and that is episode 2 of season 2 of The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon. And so this episode here is called Mulan Rouge, and it really is, when you look back at the episode overall, like it's a decent episode, but kind of, you know, just below average, I would say. Like, I really liked seeing Carol and Ash's journey. You know, obviously, like the first episode, like they went to France, right? Like they actually left, but we actually got to see a little bit of their journey here. And so we get to learn a little bit more about Carol and Ash and sort of, you know, their journey to get to France. But while this was all happening, they had to juggle a lot of what was happening at the nest. And we saw Daryl, you know, Isabel and Laurent, you know, we saw them as like a happy family. And there was this whole rescue mission happening because Laurent goes missing. And as much as that was interesting, the overall, you know, I guess problem of the episode is the fact that Emil, it's revealed that he's actually, well, I guess not necessarily that he's evil, but the nest is actually not the best place overall to be because of what their plan is for Laurent, right? That they actually want to see if he is immune to walkers. And so the episode just was really, I think the issue with this one is that it was just a mix of 2 different, like, complete storylines from episodes 1 and 2, from, you know, Carol's story to Daryl's story, that it just, you saw how hard it was to sort of tell both stories in an episode, because it was such a crazy difference in tone. Like, whenever you would cut to Carol and Ash in, you know, Greenland and dealing with those scientists, it was just totally different. And then eventually you would go to Daryl at the nest and dealing with that whole storyline. It just felt like everything that was happening at the nest wasn't that important, and it was just sort of hard to know what the story was overall. Like, it just didn't seem that exciting over there. Like, it was really weird how they set all of that up. And then when you go back to Carol and Ash's storyline, like, we knew that a lot of that wasn't going to matter overall because they were just trying to get to France, right? So like when they got to France, that story was going to matter. So the episode was just a little off. Like, there's moments that you can enjoy in the episode, but it's just overall, I don't know. It is not the greatest, but let's actually get to number 2, and that is episode 1 of season 2 of The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon. So this is the premiere episode, and honestly, when I watched the premiere for the first time, I actually really liked it. I did really like it, but once you watch the whole season, you're able to sort of look back and be like, all right, so what episode was the weakest? And you can sort of see where there were a lot of issues in terms of the story and like the pacing. And the one thing with The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon season 2 that I hope that it's something that doesn't continue into like other seasons and all of that, and that is how convenient things were for a lot of the characters, how certain things just happened and it was just like, oh, so perfect. Like, it just worked out for the characters, right? Like, I know that was a thing in The Ones Who Live, but that was more of a thing, you know, in later episodes because they were really trying to set up the finale. Season 1 of Daryl Dixon and season 1 of Dead City didn't have really any of those conveniences at all. Like, you see those conveniences a lot when they're trying to rush the story a lot. And we saw that in The Ones Who Live at the very end, you know, in that very last episode, maybe even in episode 5, there was a lot of things that just happened to them because they wanted to get the characters to like these locations. And so everything was so convenient. Everything was so easy to sort of deal with, right? Because they needed to end, I guess, that part of the story. And with Daryl Dixon, it was the same thing. Like, they needed to get Carol to France. And looking back at, you know, how many issues there were just throughout that season, a lot of it was in the very first episode here. Like, Carol just seeing the plane out of nowhere is kind of ridiculous. Like, it's just something that would never happen. And I think they could have come up with something very, very different. I think using the plane just made no sense. Like, honestly, I think that Carol maybe should have been on the boat that Daryl was on, and then somehow she ended up somewhere else over there, you know, when Daryl, I guess when he, you know, he had to like get off the ship or whatever in season 1. Like, there was just a better way that you could have told that story where it was way more, I guess, believable. But you had to sort of believe all these things about Ash, and then Carol's lie, which was really incredible. Honestly, the best moment of the episode. There's just really, I don't know, like the lightning, you know, hitting that place and everything, and just like how the story played out. Like, it was just, things were happening just way too conveniently. And like, yes, it does happen later that season, but out of every single episode in this season, episode 1 was the worst. Like, it's so bad where you're really, really noticing all of it. So let's get to the very last one here, and that is my number 1 worst episode of 2024 for anything Walking Dead, and that is the finale of The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live. So, this episode is called The Last Time. It was directed by Michael E. Satrazemis and written by Scott Gimple and Channing Powell. And so, this episode, we see Rick and Michonne go back to the CRM, and obviously Michonne has to go and get that dossier or whatever, and so Rick at that same time, I believe, has to go get the echelon briefing, and then their plan is just at some point, I don't know, eventually, I guess, just sort of save everybody there and get away, basically, is what their plan is. And so, you know, once they learn a lot about the echelon briefing, which was very cool, all of that was really amazing. Honestly, everything about the echelon briefing was just absolutely incredible, but it's because they had to end everything like right there that none of it really mattered. Like, you know, they were going after Portland, all this stuff that was going to happen that I feel like they really should have just actually allowed happen. And like, maybe Rick and Michonne weren't going to be able to be a part of it. Like, there was a better way to build up that story, but instead they kill off Major General Beale very, very fast. Like, the dossier thing too with Michonne just happened so quick. Like, she found it and destroyed it. Like, there was no issues with that. They just went in there and that was it. Major General Beale, you know, said all this stuff. Really cool scene, but then he dies, and it was like, you know, I don't know, it just happened way too fast for me. And then there's the whole explosion of everything that happens afterwards, which just makes no sense as to how Rick and Michonne survived. Like, they really shouldn't have survived that. And I just, like, I don't know, you know, like the whole thing there for Thorne to die in the way that she did, you know, for Rick to not trust her anymore after they sort of had that very close friendship for a very long time. Like, there was a lot that I feel like this episode just kind of ignored. A lot of stuff that they set up in previous episodes that they ignored because they had to tell the entirety, you know, of this story and complete it in this episode. And I think an extra 2 episodes would have fixed it. Really, honestly, it would have fixed it. If the last 3 episodes were all set at the CRM base and they introduced a bunch of really cool stuff, if Jadis was alive for a little bit longer, you know, maybe she died in the finale or something, like, there was a better way to do all of that. And that's the thing too, like, after they did all of that, it was a very fast, you know, I guess, cut to the ending, you know, and them reuniting with Judith and RJ, which was really amazing to see. It was so cool. Like, just seeing them all together as a family, really amazing. Honestly, I got emotional watching it, but after a while, you start to look at it and you're like, you know what? There was a way better way that they could have did that. Like, they could have went back to Alexandria. Like, why are Judith and RJ on their own in a field? Like, who's watching them? You know, like, there's so many questions that you have about the whole entire thing. And like, I want to know, like, what's Rick and Michonne going to be like when they go back to Alexandria? Like, that's how you know their story's not over. There's so many questions that we have. And like, the actors are saying the same thing, you know, like, they're willing to come back, like, they want to work on this. You know, Denai Guerrera is also, she's not answering anything about it. So you know that her and Scott Gimple are talking about like another story and all of that. But I just wish that there was more of, I don't know, just more of a story there, you know, at the very, very ending in terms of them reuniting, and just a lot more details there of them going back to the Commonwealth or Alexandria. But I think it's really because, honestly, they left it really open-ended in terms of where to go with the story next. Like, in a season 2, or if it's a new series, you can sort of start off blank and you can say, well, the characters went here afterwards. Whereas if you would have showed where they were in the finale, that automatically would have to be, you know, where they start off, I guess, in the very first episode of this next show or next season kind of thing, right? So I think it's a part of it in terms of leaving it very open-ended. And I just, again, this episode, to me, watching it, it wasn't a good buy, because everyone else afterwards, you know, they were saying, yes, this was a really amazing story to do. I'm so happy that everyone loved it. And then they would be asked, like, well, are you going to come back? Are you open to doing a season 2? And a lot of it is like, never say never. You know, I want to see like this character reunite with this character, etc. I'm paraphrasing, but there was just, it feels very open-ended still. And it's just, I don't know, it's one of those things where if you were going to end the CRM arc in the way that you did, I just wish that you could have kept like Major General Beale alive, or, you know, change things a little bit differently here. But maybe the CRM arc is only ever supposed to be really just this, and now it's going to be a different arc entirely. Obviously, I just want Rick and Michonne to come back, and so whatever the next story is going to be, I think I will love overall. It's going to be really incredible, but I think out of all the episodes that aired this year, this was the one that I was the most frustrated with. This is the one that I had the worst experience watching, where afterwards I was just like, this is absolutely insane. I can't believe they're actually doing all of this. Like, none of this really makes a lot of sense. And like, what does this mean? And honestly, I don't know. I'm really disappointed with this episode. Like, this was definitely a very, very disappointing episode. And I would say was the worst episode for me personally of 2024. But I'm going to leave it here. Definitely post your top 5 down below. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.